the executive by board to order for Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 20, the Acts of 2021, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, as long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom meeting ID number 854-0032-4335 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at ATM at Ayer.MA.US or 978-772-8220, extension 100 prior to the meeting. Thank you, everyone. So the first item we have on the agenda for today is approval of the meeting minutes from February 2022. Were there any adjustments or edits to those?
I read them earlier and would like to make a motion that they be approved.
Do I have a second?
I have a second it.
All right, thank you. I'll roll call the vote. Mr. Diamond,
Yep.
Mr. Smith,
Yes, sir.
Ms. Tierney,
Yes.
Ms. Gabri,
Aye.
Mr. Pombriand,
Yes.
and the chair says aye. Minutes are approved. Thank you. We have a fiscal year 2023 budget update with the review and discussion of draft number 2 of the fiscal year 2023 budget.
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. Under the budget update, everybody has draft 2, which was sent to the Select Board FinCom on February 24th. And I did give an update on specifically the changes from draft 1 to draft 2 at the last Select Board meeting. Where we are in the process, as I said at that meeting, we anticipate, Ms. Cabri and I, that draft 3 will pretty much be the, if you will, the final draft. And our goal is to get that. I will transmit that to the Select Board and to the FinCom, that version, this Friday as part of the Select Board packet. I just want to put the asterisk, as everybody knows, it's been through this process. There still could be some minor, changes or so forth, which will keep you all updated on. But we're in pretty good shape as we come into finalizing that. That draft 3 that will be sent to you on Friday, and it will be in the Select Board packet and also on the budget page. We'll use that document as well as the basis for the public, the second public forum, which is scheduled for March 16th at 6 p.m. on Zoom. And at that meeting, we will present that draft, focusing on obviously what the changes were. I'll have all of the department heads will be there to answer any questions with respect to their departments and budget. And as we'll discuss a little later, I think it's item 5 on the agenda. I'd be interested in any input from the buy board or suggestions on topics for the second forum, in addition to obviously an update on what changed to draft 3, which we'll talk about also later this afternoon. The recommended or suggested uses of free cash is generally a topic. I was thinking a brief overview of the capital just to refresh folks' minds. I know we've done a lot on that during the early part of the process, but through the chair at this point, are there any questions, concerns, suggestions with respect to the draft 2 of the budget? And Lisa, if I missed something?
I think you hit it all, Robert.
Okay, I'll open up for any questions.
I have no question.
All right,
I have no questions.
all right, thank you. Is that all for the budget, Robert?
Yes, if there are
Okay.
no questions, yep.
Excellent, thank you. So our next item is proposed usage of free cash.
Mr. Chair, through you and Cindy, could you put up that shared screen, please?
I would
As
love to.
everybody, and this should look familiar through the chair, on February 8th, we had discussed this, the recommended uses of free cash. And at that time, this was a recommendation from myself and Ms. Gabri looking at it. And at that meeting on February 8th, the buy board had discussed and agreed to recommend, obviously, the replenishment of the UDAG for Depot Square. So this slide is the same slide that we used on the 8th with these revisions. So just as we discussed, the certified free cash is at 2.5 million. Highlighted in yellow is the $65,000 to replenish the UDAG for Depot Square, and that was per our last meeting on the 8th. The GASB 45 OPEB, 181,000, representing 119,000 from the meals tax, and the balance from the free cash totaling the 300,000 per the town's policy. The forward funding of the pension assessment at 300,000. Compensated absences reserve fund, 50,000, and then 13,837 to replenish the payouts from the past year. The capital stabilization fund at 1.5 million, and you'll see highlighted that number was reduced by the 65,000 to replenish the UDAG. And then in the stabilization fund, 400,000 dedicated towards year 4 of the cost impacts from the firefighters under the SAFER grant. As we discussed, the grant covers them for 3 years, but in year 4, there will be an impact. And now is the time where we have the capacity to begin to plan looking towards year 4. So we want to put this on the agenda, obviously, with this revision. And if there are any further ideas, thoughts, or suggestions from the buy board, we generally do this as part of the second public forum, have a slide or two to discuss recommended uses.
Robert, curiosity question on the GASB 45. I know we've been putting $300,000 in every year for the last, I think, 5 or 6 years, maybe. Do we have a sense of where we are in our expected obligation versus how much money we have put aside?
We should. I know that. I guess Barbara had. Maybe Barbara or Lisa.
Well, we recently had, because the town is obligated to update its GASB 45 report every other year. So there was actually just recently, I'm not sure if it's even on the website yet. So I think you could, if it is, and Robert, you could probably confirm that. Scott, you could probably find answers to your questions in that report.
Okay.
That just came out in January, so I don't even know, or the end of January, so I don't know if it's been posted out there yet.
That's okay. It's just more of a curiosity question. I think when we first set the $300,000 amount, we were struggling to get money to put in there other than the meals tax. So I'm just curious if we should maybe look at increasing that overall.
So I have asked that question, Scott, and the answer has been, other than it possibly fully funding us sooner, the 300,000 gives us the full discount rate, which stabilizes any changes in the market. So the only place it would help us would be the actual point of funding it sooner. So 300,000 was the recommended from Elmore at Odyssey.
Thank you, Barbara.
Just a suggestion, maybe at a future board meeting, we could have Parker Elmore, who's our GASB 45 actuary, join a little discussion to further discuss Scott's question. So it might be
That's a good idea. He can translate a lot of the reports for us, with his expertise. I agree.
That would be great.
I think that that's a good idea. And Mr. Chair, just for your benefit, the January report is up on the OPEB webpage. And as of January 31st, our balance at over 4.5 million. But I think Lisa's idea, we could schedule for the future to have the actuary do a brief overview. I think that'd be helpful for everyone.
Thank you.
So just to close out on the free cash again, this was the only change from the February 8th meeting. I wanted to put it back on the agenda, for further review or discussion. Obviously, this will be a presentation topic for the public on March 16th, and any questions at that point. But that's sort of the recommended plan for the use of the free cash.
All right, I have no other questions. Any other questions from the board?
Oh, I like the plan.
It's always a good problem to have, I will say that.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. Yeah. And I should just add, Mr. Chair, that triggered something. We will explain again. I know we talked about it on February 8th, but at the presentation, we will provide the explanation. As you brought this up last time, explaining how we get to the 2.5 million and how the 2.5 million, this is sort of a unique year or an anomaly. I mean, we still have a good problem to have, that the average is more around a 1 to 1.4 million. But we'll include that in the presentation so that we're managing expectations. It'd be great to have this problem every year, but we'll see.
All right. Thank you. All right. Okay, so the next item is discussion of topics for the March 16th budget forum.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Chair, and to the buy board, the second forum is on the 16th at 6 on Zoom. All of the department heads will be there. Be interested if there are any thoughts or input from folks as to key topics that should be touched upon, topics that maybe are not as important. We're just looking for any feedback or suggestions. A couple of the things that we do know, obviously, we'll want to show the evolution of the budget from draft 1 to obviously draft 3, which will be the final version, talk about what changed in that sense. I do think a discussion on a presentation on the uses of the free cash is warranted. And perhaps a brief refresher on the capital, but I'm just interested in any suggestions of what folks think would be helpful and beneficial.
Robert, I wonder if maybe a brief history of the town and COVID and how the town's managed its financial component in the face of COVID, how we benefited or not from different things we've done.
My only other suggestion, which I know we touched upon with the first budget presentation, is just to reiterate the personnel changes within the budget, since those are a major change from last year.
Mr. Chair, that's a good point. So I was planning to have obviously a slide with the new proposed positions, but we'll also be in a position to have a slide that will have the cost impacts of the 3 collective bargaining agreements. We just concluded the DPW, so that everybody's memory, there's the fire contract the police sergeants and the Department of Public Works, all three of those contracts. And as you all know, the funding for them each has their own article at town meeting. And we always have a brief presentation on the cost impacts for those. But I will be able to put, I think that's a key point, put that obviously in the presentation. So the new proposed positions as well as the impacts.
Lisa?
I would just like to add that at that meeting, any kind of special raised articles or other types of articles are not due, I believe, until April 1st. So it is very likely that we won't have like a complete budget tie-in at that time.
Do we have any articles that have been proposed or ready for the warrant that we could kind of throw on a slide?
Yes. Yeah, for example, I mean, we have the aquatic weed article, the 30,000. We could definitely do, I think we did this last year too. We may not have had everything, but we could do a slide with a snapshot of what we have to date.
I think that's a good start, just to let the people know what they're going to be spending their money on, even though it's not directly within the budget.
Okay. And I think we've done something like that before, but I think that's a good point.
Any other comments or suggestions for the presentation? Jim? You're still on mute, Jim.
I wanted to suggest that maybe because we have free cash and reserve funds as possible uses, if we have budget issues with the cost of fuel and other expenses the town's going to endure, that maybe, Robert, during the budget forum, you could address in a slide how the town would be prepared to deal with instances like that if they do occur, so people would, have an idea that you're thinking forward and not just going to react to it as it comes along.
Lisa?
So, Ms. Moderator, you may notice that where our suggestion is to retain the reserve fund at $300,000, which is double what it usually is. Part of the reason why we increased it last year because of the unknowns of COVID-related expenses. We're recommending that it stays there. One, because COVID it's starting to get better, but we didn't know at the time. And two, because of this, these costs that are incurred from the supply line and how much that may impact us. So once again, the town manager and I are recommending we leave it at the $300,000.
I think it's a great idea, but could you bring that up as part of the budget forum for the public?
Yes.
I think that everybody's feeling their pocketbook as they go to the gas station, their food market, et cetera. And, because of the uncertainty, they'd feel like they can really entrust their monies with the town if they feel like we're thinking ahead, so that we're not going to tell the police department, oh, sorry, you can't drive your vehicles this week because we ran out of gas.
Yeah, through the chair,
Please.
Mr. Moderator. Yeah, I think what we'll do is incorporate, obviously, the reserve fund recommendation, what you've mentioned about what we'll call sort of future uncertainty or future impacts as it relates to fuel and energy, also inflation. Since the beginning of this budget process, the issue of inflation has come up more and more. And then, as Pat had mentioned too, also, the COVID impact. So we will incorporate this into the presentation. It's going to be a very upbeat slide: COVID, gas prices, inflation. Good points. We'll
Why don't you throw in the Red Sox and the Patriots too, some more positive energy.
yeah. Okay.
I was going to suggest locusts myself, but
Oh, okay, yeah,
Excellent.
all right.
all right, thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
All right, so that concludes the discussion on the public budget forum. Next item is discussion on the FY 2023 budget book.
So, Mr. Chair, we obviously, as we're coming up on that time, we wanted to get this on the agenda and get folks thinking about this. The budget book, which we've done the last few years, I believe has been a very successful tool and a good tool for the public. Unfortunately, Miss Antonellis, who's the point person on putting it together, is out today, but we're interested in any thoughts on that. Maybe you haven't had a chance, if you go on the website, to look at the one we did last year, sort of similar to what we just asked about the forum for next Wednesday. Any thoughts or suggestions on content, format, and so forth? This remains a work in progress. We're obviously getting the ClearGov, which was delayed, significantly getting that up and operational to move forward with future budget books. But just wanted to get this on the agenda. I would suggest, we're not there yet, but that we obviously have an April meeting as well. But sort of maybe a homework assignment, Mr. Chair, is if folks could take a look at the budget book, and we welcome any input or suggestions about format and content.
Do we have a time frame on the ClearGov on when that might be going live?
Lisa, what's the,
I can say I'm the only one working with this, so, and I have been. I have made further progress because I've redirected them to basically, that is a pretty comprehensive platform they have. I have redirected them to basically try to replicate this past year's budget book, which they did, and to pretty good extent. So, and they want a little bit more information on enterprise funds, but I continue to work with them. Once I have some complete numbers for this year's budget, as complete as they can be, I will send those numbers and graphs to them for them to hopefully replicate what was done last year, but using their platform.
All right. I know that there's a lot going on. There's some transition at some of the departments. So my suggestion would be for the budget book for this year is just keep the same format and content that we have and just update it for the year instead of adding additional work and tasks. The only one alternative I would possibly suggest, kind of going back to Pat's point, is maybe we'll do something on COVID and the impact on the town, whether, financially, et cetera.
good point. Mr. Chair, I tend to agree. We're almost there. I know it's been a long process in between the pandemic and some other things, and I appreciate the work Lisa's done. I think that if we stick to the same format that we've used last time for this year, but we will be in a position definitely for next year and in advance of that to have the ClearGov platform activated. And as folks remember, in addition to that being able to do the budget book and have it online, the capability, and that's another reason we wanted to develop this, that this can also be for the annual report and so forth moving forward. So we're almost there, but I do think it makes sense this one last time that we take last year's, obviously update it, and we can do something on, again, the COVID impacts. And then when you all have a chance to look at it, zap us an email if you think of anything that needs to be tweaked or maybe a new section within reason.
All right. Anything else on the budget book? No. All right. Thank you, Robert. Next item on the agenda is new business. We don't have anything listed, but I'll open up for any questions or comments for the board.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just two things quickly. One is, I think, maybe at a future meeting, either our April or May meeting, I'll send to the board in advance sort of our new business list. We have a lot of great ideas that are on the table, as they say, so we can begin to have a strategy to address those. And the second thing, just to sort of add to that, I think we need to have, perhaps at the May meeting, start a discussion about the town's compensation and classification plan. It's over 8 years old. It's due for a review and an update. And obviously, the issue of personnel classification and compensation has budgetary and financial impacts, and also a lot of key decisions to be made. So I just want to put that on the new business table, as they say.
Thank you, Robert. Curiosity question, having been on the personnel board back when those were last done, I know there was a lot of discussion at that time about the job descriptions. Are those also in a position where they should be updated?
Yes, yes. So there are three pieces. One of them, which I'll be bringing to the select board relatively soon, is just an update on the personnel policies and procedures manual. That was the easiest of the three. The next one that you just brought up is the job descriptions do need to go through a professional objective, review and update. And that also, as you know, Mr. Chair, feeds the development of the classification and compensation plan.
Thank you.
And I'll have a list for the next meeting. I'll put it together, I'll get it to everybody with the draft minutes in advance of all of the outstanding new business items we have.
Thank you, Robert. Anything else for new business? A lively bunch today. Next item is scheduling of our next meeting.
So I'll just keep the theme going, Mr. Chair. Two things on scheduling of the next meeting. One, I do believe we should have an April meeting, and related to that, and I'll be discussing for the select board on Tuesday in more detail, as they brought up at the last meeting, is the format for meetings. So just quickly, the state law, the legislature extended the deadline of the emergency provisions of the open meeting law that allow the remote participation have been now extended till July 15th of 2022. Per the select board, obviously, we'd like to get back to pre-COVID situation, get back to in-person. What we're looking to do is continue the status quo till April 1st, which is less than a month away. And then starting April 1st, begin to implement what we'll call a hybrid approach, which means that boards and committees could meet in person. If they meet in person, obviously the public can attend in person, but also still providing the Zoom technology, the Zoom capability, to the public for those meetings. We also, as I've heard from some committees as well, would also be able to continue to have boards and committees participate remotely, obviously following all of the provisions, at least till July 15th. And so we will have a definitive update to everybody before April 1st. We're putting that together now for Tuesday for the select board. So what I was going to suggest with this group, it's up to the buy board, we could continue to meet remotely at least through July 15th. And we can see what obviously happens at that point. We could go back to in-person. I know that the remote in this time seemed to work for everybody. So I guess that's sort of the question. If we go back to the in-person at this point, we'll have to most likely schedule the meetings, obviously later in the day. So I think the question is, I was going to suggest maybe the next meeting be April 12th at 2 p.m. on Zoom, if the committee wanted to continue to meet on Zoom, or if people wanted to get back to in-person, obviously we'd have to look at a later time.
For my nickel's worth, Robert, I think the 2 o'clock Zoom meeting is really good for this particular board.
Okay,
Yeah, the 2 o'clock, as long as it's remote work, I can make that work. If not, we would have to push to either a 4 or 4:30 if we go to in person. So just for the sake of getting through this budget cycle and I guess through this fiscal year, I would recommend doing remote at 2 o'clock.
Fine either way.
All right. So it sounds like next meeting is April 12th at 2 o'clock via remote participation.
Robert, through the chair. I just asked,
Yes.
hey, when does the warrant go to print again?
so the question on the warrant, so the plan is the warrant closes on Friday, April 1st. The select board and the FinCom are going to meet on April 5th to review and approve the warrant. And then the warrant will need to go to print and will be publicly posted and off to print no later than April 8th, Friday, April 8th. I'm also going to do an update under my report on Tuesday on the draft warrant.
So the April 12th date will be new business, not budget related?
Well, I think what I would suggest through the chair for April 12th, I think we can have an update on the budget book. I think we need to talk about the budget presentation for town meeting. And maybe we'll even have a draft. We might drive the discussion better. I can put together a draft of what we've done in the past and we sort of look at what we want to, again, convey on that. And then I will have the list also of our new business items that are on the table.
I think that's a good plan. It's enough to warrant a meeting, so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert. So that concludes the overall agenda for this afternoon. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second,
I will roll call the vote. Mr. Diamond,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
aye.
Ms. Tierney, Ms. Gabri,
Aye.
Sorry.
Mr. Pomfrey,
I
and the chair says aye. Thanks everyone for your time. We're adjourned.